Okay then, today is August the 27th, about an hour after the weekly open. Let's go ahead and get into the market outlook and plans for the week ahead. So let's go ahead and start off with our news events. Really don't have too much to touch on here. I don't really care about anything that's going on this week. We have a couple of foreign CPIs and then a couple of random US events, but at the end of the day, none of this is really going to affect my trading, so I don't really care about any of this stuff. Let's go ahead and run through the boomer indexes. So we're going to keep this short and sweet because I'm not actively trading these, and really I don't care too much about them other than if they're to have some sort of substantial downside move, which is on the table right now. So basically where we're at is both of these seem to have rounded off their trends and look like they've reversed course. I do expect that they'll probably chop their way back down towards their macro composites. So both the NAS and the S&P have these massive year-long composites that they built up and they broke out of. It does look like they're going to trend back towards them right now. Currently, they've traded into significant resistance zones with momentum loss, and both the monthly and the quarterly VWAPs are pretty bearish structured right now. So I do expect them to trade backwards. Really, the only major thing to pay attention to with these guys, if you're trading crypto, is if these things are to have some sort of major down days, that's obviously going to affect crypto. The correlation these days is pretty low. However, I'm pretty confident that if you were to see, like a negative 3 or 4% NASDAQ day, for example, Bitcoin's probably going to get obliterated in that. So that's the main thing to be, mindful of with the boomers, is that if they rip off the band-aid and trend down rather quickly, that's obviously going to not bode well for crypto. So, if you wanted to take advantage of that, you're probably going to want to short shitcoins. So let's go ahead and get into the meat of the presentation. Let's go ahead and run through the corn here. So basically where we're at with, how things panned out last week is that the swing setup kind of failed. Our plan was to wait for the range to get deviated and get bought back up and long it. It did kind of work out as an intraday play, but it didn't really work out as a swing just because it was pretty short-lived, rejected off the weekly singles. So the plan right now is that ultimately I'm kind of expecting a little bit more chop, and I'm probably going to run it back again for the same type of play this week. So something that will kind of point out here is that with a lot of these outlooks, you'll probably have noticed if you've been paying attention, pretty often I'm about a week early. Things like talking about the swing play, or talking about when the range is going to break, or talking about when bulls are going to start buying back up. My videos have been 1 week early for like all these kind of major things that have taken place. So last week I talked about the swing play. I think that I was probably just early, and that we're probably going to go ahead and run it back again. So what that's going to look like is if we go through here and kind of sweep the lows, we'll look at this more clearly on the medium time frame chart here in a moment. But if we have some sort of sell-off event this week and it gets bought back up, that's going to be another trigger to go for the swing long. So I'll send it again. FTA is probably going to be the weekly singles again. But if we do come up and test these guys, I really wouldn't expect them to hold us back again. So the main swing target was basically going to be probably like 28K. The risk to reward is definitely there, talking about like 1,000 point stop for like a 2,500 point up move. So, definitely pretty reasonable risk to reward. And then you always have the potential that the market could trade up towards like 30. But conservative targets like 28. So basically this is what I'm expecting to take place. If we have a setup like this where we deviate value and reclaim it, then that's going to be a trigger to take a swing long. There is always a scenario that we kind of accept below, and if it looks like we're going to accept below this low volume node, then that could be a trigger for a breakdown short. But basically shorting macro support is breaks every rule of my system, so I really have zero interest in looking for the breakdown short until there's kind of a clear and obvious signal that being bullish in here is wrong. So TLDR, guys, on the higher time frame is that I'm leaning hard, leaning towards the dead cat still. I don't really think that there's any reason to invalidate that just yet. One of the kind of key things to look for, apart from acceptance on Bitcoin, would be if the boomer indexes are trending down. That could definitely be a trigger, especially if they're trending down with haste. So yeah, there really isn't too much else to update on the higher time frame. We're working with the same plans as the last couple of weeks. For more information, check out the Paragon group with the link below, where I cover everything from how I trade to how you can develop your own style. Let's go ahead and get into altcoins here. So had some interesting stuff. Let's see. Well, let's run through a couple different things. So first off, talking about for the short coins. Last week I had this set up for OP. I did take it and closed it out already. I'm not really interested in trying to run it too much further, but yeah, I mean, the OP setup pretty much worked out pretty well. I would not be surprised at all if it was trading down to these lows. But, I don't really like swing shorting altcoins, so I just take what I can get pretty quickly normally. But the OP setup worked out really well. Let's spend a couple minutes on the DYDX trade. So I already covered in the group the entry trigger, which I thought was pretty good. I covered that on the stream on Friday. But, yeah, the main thing I wanted to talk about was just around the opportunity cost. So as I detailed in the group already, I took this off the back of the shorts getting squeezed out. I don't actually remember if this was on. It was on Thursday. So I took this when shorts got squeezed out. And, I wanted to talk about opportunity cost here because basically what I covered in the group was that I took 80% off immediately because it broke down about 5.5% right after I entered. So I closed out 80% there. And I kept 20% on. Because I was wanting to try to swing this further. My original downside target was much steeper. And basically just wanted to talk about how stupid it is most of the time, for myself at least, to hold trades for any meaningful amount of time when they're on these kind of volatile shitcoins. Because I held 20% to try to trade to steeper downside targets, but all I did was just sit in position and basically get out, basically, we're talking about an extra percent that I got out on, right? Instead of just taking all the profit immediately, I could have duplicated this trade into 2 trades instead of holding it. So it's just really a good cautionary tale that when you get into a trade and it immediately goes in your direction off a strong impulse, a lot of the time it's just really the move to just close it fully. And not sit there and mess around with trying to swing for deeper downside targets. Last one that we'll cover here is BNB. So I am keeping a little bit of an eye on BNB. This thing, again, very similar to what we were just talking about on Pepe, had a lot of open interest come in, and most of that, most of those guys are definitely getting put under pressure now. We can go ahead and look at this. You know me, I don't really like looking at this on 30-minute, but it's just a little bit easier. And I already have kind of confirmed by looking at lower time frame that this is indeed mostly shorts. But you can see basically the longs got wiped here, and then this is where the shorts kind of rage shorted it. Obviously, this open interest got unwound, so these shorts, this open interest is kind of stale right now. But basically, what I'd be looking for would be something similar to this going into next week. If we see price not really going down that much, kind of just drifting down a little bit, but open interest ramping really heavily like this, that would be a trigger to look for like a downside sweep reclaim to trade this thing up. And this thing probably would have decent legs on it, where it could probably trade from, ideally you'd be getting long on it at like, 210-ish on that sweep, and then it could probably trade all the way up towards like 230 probably. So keep an eye on BNB for that type of play. That's pretty much it though for shitcoins. Like I said, most of the shitcoins really look weak, and the only thing I would be doing would be trying to short them, but most of these coins are beaten down so much to where the shorting, it just seems crazy to want to be opening shorts on things that are already beaten down so much. So really the only reason why I would be super interested in chasing shorts would be if I think that Bitcoin's going to trade down. But ultimately, I think that Bitcoin's probably going to trade down temporarily as a deviation type play and trade up again. But that's pretty much it for the week, guys. Good luck out there, and hopefully we get some good intraday and maybe even a swing opportunity. Cheers, everybody.